Well, hello, my friend, and welcome to the Artist Next Level podcast. I am super happy that you decided to join me today. It's always a pleasure to share with you some insights, some ideas, some interviews, and so on. And today we're going to talk about Instagram once again. It's a follow up from last week's episode. And today I'm going to answer your questions.
Resources, inspiring interviews, business practices, and practical advice to take your art career to the next level. Join Sergio Gomez in today's Artist Next Level and get ready to take control of your career.
Well, my friend, if this is your first time here in the Artist Next Level podcast, I want to say welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. It's always a pleasure to have you. Well, today's episode is a follow-up from last week where I talk about Instagram. And what happened is I did this episode about 5 things you should be doing right now on Instagram, fall of 2020. And it went berserk. It went crazy. The downloads went off the roof. I was looking at the statistics, the metrics of downloads and so on. And it was by far the most downloaded episode of all 2020 so far as of September. So I was happily surprised about that. And that means that, many of you really wanted to hear about it. So maybe as you're listening to this episode, maybe you listened to the one last week and that's why you're back. So welcome back. If you missed last week's, you definitely want to go check it out after today's episode, because today what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer questions specific to Instagram that I have received based on the previous episode, things that I didn't really talk about much in depth, as I discussed like those 5 things you should be doing right now on Instagram. So I'm going to answer, let me see how many questions I have time. Probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I'm going to have time to do six questions, answer them, and hopefully that will help you out too, again, as you continue using this platform. Now keep an eye, because coming up very soon, I'm working on a podcast episode with 4 guests talking about TikTok. As you know, TikTok is the newest social media platform, one that's going crazy and one that's been in the news a lot recently as well. And there are tons of artists using it. And so I'm going to interview 4 artists of all different kinds of art, different kinds of genres, different age groups as well. A lot of times when you think about TikTok, you think, oh, it's only for kids. Well, let me tell you, there are artists who are not kids and who are doing great. So I'm going to interview from younger artists to older artists, and also various types of art, from kind of cartoon or anime to, hyper realistic artwork. So it's going to be really fun conversation. I'm going to ask them why they use TikTok, what's the difference between the other platforms, and maybe a piece of advice that they want to share. So why to pay attention to it. So definitely something you want to check out. But let's get right into today's topic of Instagram and answering questions that have been sent to me. So the first question is that I have here: are people buying art on Instagram? Sergio, are people buying art? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Yes, people are buying art on Instagram, and artists are selling art on Instagram. I have sold tons of art of my own work on Instagram myself. I have also worked with many artists who are selling also really well on Instagram. And, it's, again, one of those platforms that is super easy to find an artist you like, as a collector. If you are looking for art, you find an artist you like on Instagram, you just click follow, and then you keep looking at what that artist is doing. And if the artist is doing a good job and has a good brand, then it will be really easy for that person to continue follow that artist, fall in love with the artist's work, and buy something when the artist presents an opportunity for purchase. So the answer, the global answer to, are people buying art on Instagram? Yes, people are buying. And maybe the second part of that question, which was not really posted, but I'm assuming, like, so why I am not selling, right? So if people are buying art, why they're not buying my art, right? That wasn't the question, but I think it's a proper question to ask, because I believe that's probably really the inner question that was posed, right? So there are many things that need to happen for you as an artist to be able to sell art on Instagram? First of all, and I'm going to give you just a quick rundown of things that I believe you should be doing, you should have, that will make it easier for people to purchase your art or to find uh, you on social media, on Instagram particularly, and follow you. One, you should have a clear brand. What is a clear brand? You should have a clean profile that says what is it that you do as an artist. Are you a painter? Are you a sculptor? Something that's of interest, right? You don't have to say what your art means. You just have to say what you do. Just give people a quick insight what you do. Those first, 4 or 5 lines that you have on your Instagram profile are super important. That's what determines if people also are going to say, well, I'm going to follow this person or not, right? So that's what they'll see right away. Are you using your stories to show behind the scenes of your art? I talked a lot about that last week's episode. Use Instagram stories. So if I just arrive in your page and I'm looking for art and maybe I like what I see, I say, oh, this looks interesting. Then maybe first thing I'm going to take a look at are your Instagram stories. And maybe I see you working in your studio. Maybe I see you talking to me, through Instagram and saying, what you're working on or what's on your easel. Now it catches my interest. Now I want to know more. Now I'm beginning that slow process of reducing the distance between, the viewer and the artist, right? So again, that's very important. And then I go to your profile and I see images that relate to your art, that are presented in a beautiful, interesting manner, not just picture, and that's it. But I see some of the art on a wall, and I see some of the art on your easel, and I see your tools, and I see you interacting with other people in a gallery setting or in your studio or hanging an artwork and so on. All those things actually make a huge difference. And for a person to start the process of, okay, I'm gonna follow this person, and then in the process, as I follow this artist and many others, as I begin to get more acquainted with your art, eventually, if it's something that I've been really wanting, when the opportunity comes in, I'll get one, right? So that leads me to the next part of that, which is, okay, so you're doing a good job on your profile, your artist brand, how you're presenting yourself, how you're presenting your art, but maybe you are not really giving people opportunities to purchase, opportunities to buy, right? That is super important. I talk to so many artists who, have been on social media for a long time, on Instagram, and they say, Sergio, I haven't never sold anything, but when I go and I study their posts, they have never really made the ads. They had never really given people a reason, an opportunity to make the purchase. Just because you posted doesn't mean people know it's for sale. Just because you posted doesn't mean people know how to get it, how to buy it, right? You have to help people out in that process, in their journey of getting to know you, and then giving them opportunities to get your work, right? So that's something that whenever I'm working on a big promotion for my work, I make sure that I have very specific call to actions, right? How people can get the work. Do they need to DM me? Do they need to go to a specific link on my profile? What's the process? What and what's going to make that connection, so they say, oh, I really like it. Oh, and actually I can have it, right? Which is a great feeling when you see something that you like and you realize, well, actually I can have it, or I can start that process. So as an artist, finding ways to do it. Just by saying DM me, doesn't mean that people are going to just do it, especially if you do it all the time in every post, right? There are ways of doing it. And that's something that, for example, in the upcoming Small Works Art Sales Challenge, which I do inside our Next Level Academy, which, by the way, quick commercial, that starts on September 21st. So hope you join me. September 21st, I do the Small Works Art Sales Challenge, which I do it every year with hundreds of artists from around the world, and it is super awesome. I take you by the hand for 10 weeks, starting on the 21st, on how to release a small body of work, that will be ready for the holiday season, for the end of the year, when people are paying more attention, buying, and so on. And it works even during pandemic time. So that's definitely something that you might want to check out. I'll tell you more about it, before we close today's episode. But anyway, through that challenge, for example, I help artists to learn how to first create the desire, right? And by the way you talk about your art, the way you release the work, and then walking people through how to get it right and what happens when they get it, and all those amazing things that are part of the experience. But if you're not experiencing that, if you're not experiencing sales, that could be a reason you're just not doing the opening the doors of opportunity for those who are following you, for those who like your work, and at various price points too, right? There'll be people in your audience that love your art, but they will never be able to afford that giant sculpture or beautiful expensive painting, but they would love to have maybe a small sketch, a small study, or a small watercolor, right? And in a way that's exciting, that doesn't feel like, oh, it's just a leftover from your studio. So all those things are things that are critical and very important in the art selling and art buying process on Instagram. So that answers the question: are people buying art on Instagram? The answer is yes. Even with the pandemic, still people buying art. In the middle of the pandemic, I did the art sale, what's it called, the artist support challenge. Maybe you did that too, and I sold out all my 13 pieces that I did for that. It was pretty awesome, and I shared about that, I think, on the podcast and also on my Instagram and my Breakfast with Sergio show. I talk about how I sold out in 48 hours in the middle of a pandemic, right? So yes, people are buying art, and you just have to do the right things so that it happens for you as well. All right, the next question is how many hashtags to use. That's a great question. How many hashtags to use on Instagram. And well, things have changed quite a bit. The whole hashtag, theories on how hashtag works and what they do, and should you use 30, which is the maximum? Should you use only 3 or 2? Should you use non-hashtags? Well, the reality is that today, right, in the fall of 2020, the algorithms and the software that run Instagram and all the social platforms have image recognition capabilities where they can pick up, the type of image that it is, and, kind of categorize that image in a way that can be found by others who may be looking for similar things. So hashtags are still important, but they're not, I believe, as important as they were, let's say, 3, even 2 years ago, right? Because the AI has become so smart now on Instagram. However, hashtags are still important because hashtags allow you to really fine-tune, pinpoint, specifics about your image. The AI might recognize an image as a work of art, right? Or as a painting, but it will not know, for example, the difference between an oil painting versus an acrylic painting, right? Or things of that nature. So, you could still use hashtags now that are more relevant to the specific image that you are posting, right? Or if it's a red painting, or if it's oil, on linen, that's a hashtag that you could use, for example. And also looking at the relevancy of hashtags, see which hashtags are performing well for you, which ones are not. And that all those things are very helpful. One of the apps that I use for hashtags, which I have created a Breakfast with Sergio episode about, and I use it just about every day, is an app that's called Smart Hash, Smart, SMART, and then hash as hashtag, all in one word, Smart Hash. It's an Apple, you can find your Apple app. I don't know if they have it for Android. I'm not sure. You have to check on that. But it's called Smart Hash, and what that does, Smart Hash, is it looks at the hashtags that you use and tells you if they're working for you or not, so that you become smarter when you choose hashtags. It helps you choose hashtags, helps you save your hashtag set, helps you do a lot of really cool things with your hashtags so that you are smart about it. So I highly recommend it. Check it out. I've been using it now for, I don't know, maybe 6 months, and I love it. And like I said, I use it every day in various of my accounts because it really, really works. So as far as the number, how many, to be specific to the question, how many hashtags to use, I recommend that today you should use between 1 to 10 hashtags, and you can vary that. The days of saturating your image with 30 hashtags, I don't think it's that good anymore, for the reasons that I just talked about. You don't want to look spammy either. Normally, typically on one of my posts, I do between 5 and 10. sometimes 6, sometimes 7. Sometimes, I may just do a post with just 3, just again, if I want to vary things around. I think the most important is to try different hashtags, to be smart about it, which ones you use. There's not a magic number to say, okay, if you use 3 hashtags, boom, you're gonna explode. No, it's about still the quality of the post, what you say about it, the engagement and everything that it creates. It's not just the hashtag. However, when I look, and you can check on that, right? If you have your Instagram as a business account, when you make a post and you use hashtags and you put it out there and you wait a day or so and you go back and you see the insights for that post, you can see how much reach it had also from hashtags. It will tell you reach, and there will be a category that says hashtag, so if it's actually the hashtags are actually helping you to get more reach or not. And I check that often, and since I started using this app, the reach has been substantial, has been very good, and that's why I keep using hashtags, because I think they're still important, they're still relevant, and they still work. All right, another question that I have here on Instagram says, how often should I post? Okay, great question. How often should I post? Well, I think the answer is as often as you can. The more you post, I think, the better. And it also depends on the size of your account, right? It also depends on the size of your account. If you have a smaller account, if you're under 1,000, under 5,000, if you can post every day, it will help out, to reach more people. Why? Because you're posting every day, and every time you post and you're doing things interesting and you're using hashtags, you get a chance to reach out more people, and you're using your stories. And so now as your account begins to grow, you don't really need to necessarily post every day. If you don't want to, you can do every 2 days, for example. And you get better at making better posts, and you see what posts work better for you, and so on, right? The one thing that I believe you should be using every single day is your Instagram stories. I think those should always be filled out with something. So use Instagram stories, every day, and, your feed as much as possible. Now, I personally, and this is just me, I post about maybe 2 times a day, typically on a weekday, and maybe once on weekends. Sometimes I skip on Sunday or something like that if I'm with the family, just want to rest from social media. But on weekdays, typically you will see me posting a couple times a day. And that works for me. I like it, because I get to engage with more people. I get to have more conversations, and it's just fun. It's more interesting for me. It works for me, and because I'm putting a lot of effort and attention to the audience that I have on my Instagram. So the idea here on how often is really find something that works for you and be consistent. Consistency, I think, is more important than, let's say, this week you post once a day, and then next week you only post once, and then the following week you only post 2 times, and then you get another break and you say, okay, I'm going to post a lot, and then you post 10 times a day, right? So there's no consistency. I think the algorithms also like a sense of consistency to see how you are using your account, so that it can show it to more people, particularly to those who follow you as well. All right, another question that I would like to answer is, how should I prevent my art from getting stolen on Instagram? How should I prevent my art from getting stolen on Instagram? That is a very important question. I think that's a very legit question that many artists are worried about. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, talking to one of the artists in my academy, in my coaching program, the Art Level Academy, was really concerned about that. He says, Sergio, aren't you afraid that somebody's going to steal your art and so on? So, yeah, I mean, the reality is that no matter where you put your art, there's always a chance, right? And I told him this also, the only 100% chance your art will never be stolen is if you never show it to anybody, right? Because today, even if you have it hanging on a show in a gallery, anybody can come with a cell phone, with their I don't know how many pixel newest iPhone, and take a great picture, put it on their social media, and there you go, right? There's your art that you've been so much protecting. So, that's kind of like what happens with being in the world today. We're participating in the world today. However, that doesn't mean that you should be careless. I think you can take precautions, and every artist is different, and every type of art is different. There are some works of art that are easier to steal and reproduce, particularly work that has flat color, that is more design oriented, so that's easier to grab and redesign, recreate, and then use it on t-shirts and so on. And I have actually known artists whose art has been stolen and has been used in merchandise without their permission. So it happens. And I think it was last year, one artist that I follow on Instagram, that happened to her. Her art was being used in Mexico, I think in handbags or something. So, unfortunately it happens. So things that you can do that I recommend if you're worried about that, things you can do is, for example, don't post the picture in full frame. Don't post your art in full frame that is easy to grab and reproduce. Maybe show it, in an angle within the contextual space of a gallery or a room, which of course you can download those apps where you can put your art in a room. Then the art is smaller. It has, again, is less higher quality as if it's full frame. Video, use video as much as you can, because when you use video, it's really hard to get a good, really screenshot of the video that they can actually use for reproductions. It's really difficult, because the quality of the video, and particularly the videos in motion, when it's posted on Instagram, it's not the same. So that's something that you can do, use video more often and not use full frame. You can also use watermarks. A lot of artists use watermarks, particularly photographers like to use watermarks and so on, and those could work as well. I don't use watermarks myself, but I don't like them. But I'm not saying that they're bad. You can use them if you want, and even with a watermark, it makes it difficult, but still somebody could recreate it, right? But I guess, for about everything, there's not 100% way to secure your image. The moment it goes out in the world, now it lives there, and it's a risk that one takes for being out there in the world today. So, keep that in mind. Think about that. It's definitely something that you need to think about, and take as many precautions as you can. Now, you may be taking all precautions in your social media, but then somebody goes to your website and you have beautiful high-res images, right? So they can be grabbed from there. So again, don't forget, it's not just Instagram, it's also what you're doing all together on the internet that matters. All right, so let's go to the next question. I got two more to go over really quickly. The next one is why some artists get a lot of engagement and I don't, right? Why some artists are getting a lot of engagement and I'm not getting any, right? Like I post a question and nobody answers, right? Well, the reason is, my friend, is because maybe you haven't yet created an engaged community around your art and around your account. People are not going to comment on your post if you are not really creating a sense of community. If you are not doing the same, if you are not going also to other people's posts and comment on theirs, those who comment on you sometimes go in their account and also comment on theirs. In other words, give what you would like to receive, right? Sometimes do shout outs in your stories of art that you like from other artists. It's okay to do it, and you tag them. That creates community and a sense of community, and establish relationships with people on your Instagram. Answer your DMs, DM people, all those things create a sense of community. When you create a sense of community, people feel that they can participate in what you're doing. They are more willing to make a comment or to make a like or to share your post, or things that normally you see people doing in other bigger accounts. And I think that's a great question, right? Because again, it shows that it's so easy to compare yourself with others. Say, well, I see that people are really commenting on Johnny, but they're not commenting on mine, or they're really liking Mary's post, but they really don't like mine, right? So it's so easy to come and to look at other people's accounts and come and compare it against yours, right? But you don't know all the details. You don't know how they're engaging, what they're doing. So, as a rule of thumb, what you want to do is create a sense of community around the art that you're creating, and conversations happen slowly. In my course of social media that I have inside our Next Level Academy, I talk a lot about, creating a sense of community and asking questions and engaging with people. And sometimes artists tell me after they watch the course, Sergio, I made a post and I put a question and nobody answered. So I go and I check, well, let me see what you ask. And so they ask, for example, they put their art, and so what does this mean to you, right? Well, that's a big loaded question, right? That requires somebody to really sit down, look at your art for a long time, and think about, what does this mean to me, right? Well, people are not going to have time to do that right from the get-go, particularly if you haven't really created a community that is engaged with you. After they have kind of like closeness with you, yeah, they will do that even without you asking. They will tell you, what do they feel, what do they think about your work, and so on. But at the beginning, at the get-go, don't expect that now that you want to create more engagement, you start asking questions, and people are going to just run and start answering all your amazing, ideological and beautiful, amazing questions. No, sometimes a simple question to get people get started. It's like basic things like, what's your favorite color, right? Like let me give you a very specific example, right? I made a post some time ago of a painting that's all red, and I love red, and I don't have many paintings that are, just red, only red, except like maybe 4 or 5, and this was one of them. So I posted and I talk about how, even though I love red, I only have like 4 or 5 paintings that are all red and intense, and I talk about that. And then I said, so what's your favorite color? And tons of people reply to that, and I comment with what as they were posting and things like that, right? So that just required a person to answer one really easy, quick question, not something meaningful as tell me what this means, right? So think about that, as you begin to create engagement. Start with easy questions, things that will make it easy for people to interact with you, and then again, bigger things can happen. All right, I think that was a really awesome question. And then the last Instagram question that I received that I want to answer, which I picked the ones that I think were really good, particularly for this episode as a follow-up from the previous one, is on tagging, which is, Sergio, should I tag other accounts? Should I tag other galleries that I want them to look at my art? Should I tag curators or collectors that I want them to look at my art? Should I tag them in my post? And my friend, again, this is another topic that I covered in my course inside the Art Next Level Academy, and the answer is no, you shouldn't. You shouldn't just take a post and tag tons of people that have no idea who you are, have no clue why they've been tagged. It's kind of annoying, and it doesn't really do anything for you. So I would say, don't tag them unless there's a reason for it. Let's say you have a show. Let's say you are in a group show, right? And your artwork is in such and such gallery. It's in ABC gallery, for example, right? So what you do is you make a post. You are excited that you are in the ABC gallery. So you make the post, you put a nice picture of your art. In the post, you mention them at, right? I'm so excited to be at ABC Gallery this month, for the show, blah, 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 curated by at, and then that's okay. You can, in that case, mention the gallery and the curator and maybe all the artists who may be in the show. That's okay. And then on that post, yes, you can go and tag the gallery because it has something to do with it, right? Your art is being featured on that gallery. So there's a reason why the tagging makes sense versus when it doesn't mean anything. And when you do that, there's a chance that the gallery might look at the post and they will also repost it, or they will share it in their stories, right? Because again, speaking about community, now you're being part of their community by participating in the things that they are already doing as well. So that's definitely something that I really recommend that you do. Use it in that way. If you're collaborating with somebody else, right, then tag them. Now, mentions, you can always mention a gallery mention. It's okay. Again, because a mention on a post, they will get a notification that somebody was mentioned, and the mention is fine. Again, particularly as long as it relates to something, right? Don't just mention 20 galleries that have nothing to do with anything in that post. So, that's kind of a best etiquettes to use when you're tagging other accounts on Instagram. So, my friend, I hope you enjoy the answer to these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions on Instagram. Something that I want to say again, if you want to work more on the platform, learn more about how to engage your audience, how to grow it, how to sell, particularly on Instagram and on Facebook and any other platform that you might be using, really consider checking out the challenge, the Small Works Art Sales Challenge that begins September 21st. It's a 10-week challenge where I take you by the hand week by week. I give you a video to watch about the challenge. We start with, for example, the audience, thinking about how ways to build our audience, to grow the audience, engage the audience. We start thinking about also like what type of art we can do. You can use the challenge for small prints, small paintings, small drawings, sketches, studies, reproductions, things of that nature. The idea is that they're small so that you're providing kind of a nice entry point for a lot more people, right? And as an excuse to bring attention to your work, which might attract also some of the people that can also purchase your bigger stuff. And by creating this attention, they will have also access to the other things that you're doing, even if they might not be too interested on the small things. But it is a really nice kind of a way of creating momentum, building it up. So every week I give you the video to watch. I give you also the that week marketing calendar on what to say, what to post that week that will help you out, so that you don't have to worry about that. It's all included in there. Every week I also answer questions as far as things that you might be doing, ideas that you may have, things that you may want to do for the challenge. And then there's a community where we all share ideas. In Facebook, we share kind of what's happening and so on. We also have Zoom meetings where you can join a Zoom meeting if you want to meet other artists and kind of share your small works. It's pretty fun. And then we release it, right? We're going to release it, later towards the end of the year, which here in the United States, for example, a good time to release it is towards the end of November when you have also Black Friday weekend and so on. That's a good opportunity. But really, you can do the release anytime. It could be late October or early December. You pick, you choose. The challenge will take you step by step, but you will release, your work, whatever works best for you. It doesn't have to be the same time for everybody. And also, it could be a combination of in-person and online, or just online. Like in the past, I have done this, by the way, I have done this challenge myself as an artist for about 8 years now. And, the last 3-4 years, I've been inviting artists to do it with me. And it's always so much fun. It gets bigger every year. And there's so many artists who have never sold anything online, not in social media, and they join the challenge. And for the first time, they experience, wow, actually people do buy art online. And now that I know how to do it, right? And so it works really great and it's awesome to see so many artists to really be successful with that. I always say, it's a small art, a small effort that can bring big results, right? Big results. Some artists get commissions and other things or other opportunities just because they go through that process. So I invite you to check it out, join me in the challenge. All you have to do to sign up for it, go to www.theartistnextlevel.com/sales. Super easy. Again, www.theartistnextlevel.com. Again, theartistnextlevel.com/sales. Super easy. If you can't find it, you have any trouble, just DM me through Instagram, send me a message through Instagram, and I will be happy to send you the direct link where you can just click on it and look at all the information, sign up for it so you can be part of it. It's all part of the Art Next Level Academy, so you got to be a member of the Academy, take part of the challenge, and it is super fun. We already have many artists who are excited, who are anticipating, are waiting for it, and on the 21st of September, that's when we kick in. We close doors. We don't let people in after that so that we can all work together, okay? So thanks so much again for joining me today on the podcast. Hope you have an awesome and beautiful day. Enjoy the rest of the day, and please share this episode with your friends. And if you haven't done so, please also rate or rate my podcast in your phone, in your iTunes, and also send me a review. That would be really awesome. I would really, really appreciate it. Hope you have a great day, my friend, and I will see you very soon. I will see you at the next level.
Check out our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find our podcast library, learn about our upcoming webinars, find resources relevant to your career, and much more. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you at the next level.